I'm so pleased to have with me today Heather Wheless, and Heather is HR Director at Milliken in Spartanburg, South Carolina. Heather, welcome to the Business of Innovation podcast.
Thanks, Gail.
You're so welcome. It's a pleasure to see you. And I know that you've been in your current role for just shy of a year. And I just wanted to know a little bit more about what you do and how you came to be in this role.
Sure. So as you mentioned, I'm the HR director for Milliken. So I support the textile division, which is one of the largest divisions within the Milliken organization. In my particular role, I support the business side. So I really help and support individuals who run, let's say, the sales roles, so sales team, product development, and a lot of the shared services group, which is a pretty decent size of the organization. Mm-hmm. I came to be to Milliken. Actually, it was by accident. It was through relationships, which has been a key, and I think my entire growth throughout my career is just knowing people and building those relationships. But anyway, an opportunity, or through an acquaintance and who worked with Milliken, an opportunity came up, and wasn't really looking, but again, had an opportunity to one, move a little bit closer to home because I was traveling quite a bit, and just a little bit more focus again on the business and strategy and talent development and whatnot, which are really some of my passions. So that's how I ended up at Milliken, and it's been a journey ever since.
Mm-hmm. Roger Milliken is known for being highly innovative. And I think even the foundation that's been laid in the state of South Carolina, being an international center with so many foreign headquarters here, many, and most people point back to Roger Milliken because he started relationships like that, invited foreign businesses to come here, work with his company. And so there must be that tradition at Milliken of innovation and getting things done, but also doing them in new and different ways. What do you find?
Absolutely. So even today, you'll hear that innovation is a core foundation of the entire business, no matter what division they're in. And I think we're seeing some of that in these strange times that we're in, is that ability to take our challenges of whatever the day brings and really use our core technologies and expertise in order to address those. So one of the nice stories, or one of my favorite stories about Milliken that I heard and I continue to hear, is really their focus and Roger Milliken's focus on being able to pivot a business. So if something has changed, or if times around us have changed, is really take those, again, technologies and resources and pivot the business to address the needs of the world around us. And we've really been able to do that.
Mm-hmm. And how has COVID-19 changed your role and what you're currently doing?
It's changed it tremendously. So our focus before COVID-19, of course, was, again, development and growth and expansion and how do we help employees and individuals and associates stretch and grow in their current roles. Now we're just helping them stay connected. And really just checking on, I went from a focus on development and support to really just making sure that everybody's okay, right? So making sure that they have a connection, that they have someone to reach out to, that we do have individuals who may be struggling with technology, or they may just be struggling working in a new environment, because clearly people don't always adapt to change. And I think really helping them through that change process has been a key focus for the HR team recently, and specifically for me.
And how do you find that people are dealing with this particular time period? Do they seem to acclimate? In general, what have you found? What have you seen?
I find that they're getting used to their new normal. So it's, some have taken a little longer than others, which is perfectly fine. But I think getting used to a new normal of, setting a schedule and making sure that they're connected and staying on top of priorities and really staying in conversations and in touch with team members. I think we've adapted to that very well. It'll be interesting. Our next challenge is going back into an office environment and how we have to get reacclimated to that now that we're settled into our current space. So there is more change to come for sure.
For sure. And what about you right now? What's your biggest challenge personally?
Well, still new to Millikan, of course. I think my biggest challenge is, again, still trying to find opportunities to connect and really fit into the organization.
Mhm.
So I try to go in on a consistent basis. Almost a day-to-day goal of mine is really to add value, whether it's to my team, to my to the company, to wherever, but add value to the conversations. And really making sure that I stay connected within those conversations and within those teams
Mhm.
as much as I can. So that's probably been the biggest challenge because, again, I'm still a bit of a rookie in the Milliken world.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it's working. So every day I see improvements and
How does it work with hiring these days? Are you doing all of that via Zoom, interviews and so forth, or is that sort of on hold right now? How is that working?
so most of our hiring is on hold, just as again as we navigate through, just through COVID in itself. And I think we've seen that with the majority of companies. But we do have open positions, and we are interviewing via Zoom. And actually, we're using Microsoft Teams, so a
Okay.
shout out there. But yeah, so we're doing video conferencing and video interviews and whatnot. So, and thankfully we have those technology bases right now in order to keep these processes running. Otherwise it would just be, a voice on the phone, which isn't always intuitive.
Yeah. And you have a really interesting background. I want to shift gears just a little bit here, but you have an interesting background, and I know at one point you actually worked in the Middle East. So I just see you as someone who really knows how to pivot and, change direction and really be responsive to whatever needs to be done. Talk a little bit about that, and did that come up during your interview with Milliken?
Absolutely. So, my time in the Middle East is probably the most, I guess, the most interesting part of my career. It was really by accident.
Hmm.
So I was in my early 30s. I'd never been outside of the U.S. and I had an opportunity for a position, and really it's how I ended up in HR. I had an opportunity for a position to support an HR function overseas. So this was, of course, during the Gulf War. But anyway, so I had an opportunity to support, and at the time, I really didn't have anything to stop me. So I said, why not? So I was scared to death. Again, I'd never really been away from home other than to go to college, which I went to Converse in Spartanburg. So that wasn't too terribly far away. So I ended up overseas, and I just found my niche. I found some great mentors. I found some great colleagues. I worked for some really good companies, and I learned from the pivot and innovation perspective. I learned just not to be afraid of that challenge. So so now I guess when I'm faced with some of those uncomfortable decisions and uncomfortable opportunities, I've kind of forced myself to step through that door now and realize that, gosh, what's the worst that could happen? And I guess at that time, I figured the worst that could happen is if I fail and I end up I go home and I'm back to where I started, which
Hmm.
again clearly wasn't the case.
So it sounds like it really built your confidence to try new and different things, to perhaps listen to your instinct, to just be okay when sometimes it fails or sometimes it works, but being willing to try something new.
I would agree. So I think taking on some of those challenges, it does build some of that confidence. And I think it just gives you an opportunity to realize again that you're not going to know unless you actually do it.
Mhm.
So that's kind of where it took me. Again, I've made many decisions over the past probably 10, 15 years that have been uncomfortable decisions, or maybe were going to put me in an unknown spot, or a stretch assignment, etc. But I've just learned to push myself and step forward and go ahead and try it.
Mhm.
Again, with the understanding that if it doesn't work, then that's okay.
Mhm. Tell me, what do you feel like in your career has been perhaps your most proud moment, or what do you feel like you're most proud of?
Probably that actually. So again, I was a bit of a homegirl, so I've always lived in the upstate. Again, I never traveled out of the country, and I surely never traveled by myself.
Mm-hmm.
So to go, I think, into that environment alone and with complete unknowns and find an opportunity or really take advantage of opportunities to where I could grow and I could learn and I could be exposed to other cultures and other thoughts, just schools of thought,
Mm-hmm.
and really grow that into a very successful career is probably the pinnacle
Mm-hmm.
of my career so far. So I'm really proud of that.
Absolutely. And you said something else that interested me. You said, whatever I'm doing, I'm always trying to add value. Where did that come from? Is that kind of something you grew up with? Where did that come from? That extra, trying to do something just a little extra to make it a little better, or see other ways, new ways, new ways to make it better.
Yep. So I think that I've kind of learned that over time is by adding value. At least when I found opportunities to add value, then I found that really opened doors. So it gave me more exposure to individuals. It gave me more exposure to organizations. Um, and, by adding value to those individuals and to those organizations, again, it just allowed for additional steps in my career. So I try to keep that as my mantra. So if I can add value into a discussion, if I can add value into a process, if I can add value, to a person or to an organization, then it's just gonna help. It helps them, it helps me, and again, I continue to grow. And that really I think, has provided a lot of the learning opportunities that I've had too, because I think those individuals know I'm not afraid of that challenge. So I'll take it and I'll run with it and I'll try to add the most value I can.
I love that term. I feel like everybody should always be thinking in that regard. And I guess I wanted to ask you too what innovation means to you, because we're trying to encourage students and even working professional students to, I would quote you, add value. But sometimes adding value can mean changing process and different things that really is where I think innovation can come in. What does innovation mean to you?
So I think to me, innovation means to have the foresight and fortitude to shape the future. So whether that's your own future, whether that's the future of your team, or whether that's, again, the future of your organization. But I think you have to have that foresight and really the fortitude. So you have to have the courage to make those changes, to shape the future. I think it's not just adapting to you, but also being a change agent in order to help give that competitive advantage. So to me, that's kind of encompassing what innovation is.
So what are you learning now? What are you curious about now?
Oh, I'm curious about now. So I am a student to some extent of culture. So I love or I really appreciate culture and just different regions and different schools of thought. And especially now that I've been in business and exposed to that. So in my previous role, I supported businesses across multiple countries, and there were different cultures and different ways to get the same thing done, but just again in a different process or with a different school of thought behind it. So I think I continue to learn and to grow and to really try to interact with different cultures and understand, again, how do we work together? How do we make this relationship work? How do we coexist to some extent, especially now that we are in such a globalized economy?
And what is it that you would suggest to people that want to learn more about cultures? Is there anything particular that you're reading, or any particular, how do you learn more about cultures?
So some of it is, yes, some of it's reading, some of it's studying. So I love TED Talks. So if you just pick TED Talks and listen to them, so some of those just give you insights into, how again, people interact in different ways in different areas of the world. So TED Talks is great. I love things like National Geographic, right? So just reading through articles and really understanding the interaction of people. There's nothing more valuable than having the opportunity to go and to stay and to live or visit or really work with and interact. So for students, especially in your group, if they're in a business environment, raise your hand if you have an opportunity to support, and another, a segment that's outside of the U.S. If you have an opportunity to support a project in China, you don't necessarily have to move there, but support them, interact with them. China, Mexico, Canada is a different culture, even though we don't think about it, Europe, et cetera. So I think those are just, again, just raise your hand, volunteer, add value. That's a great opportunity to do so.
Yeah. I love that. And what would you say is, if you were giving someone advice about being innovative, what would you say to them?
I think the biggest piece to that one is don't be afraid to fail. So if you want to be innovative, look at what you have in front of you and think, how can we do this differently? Does it make sense what we're doing today? Will what we're doing today get us to our goals tomorrow? And again, I think it's try and learn how to look around the corners. Find a mentor who you feel is an innovator or has some of that innovative or disruptive thinking. And really listen to them, really coach or be coached by them. And it doesn't have to be one. I mean, find multiple. I think that's how you learn, because, you don't get stuck in your same mental thought, and you're not necessarily learning from the same person over and over. But I think that's the biggest piece.
What, and it may be too soon to ask you these questions, but what are some of the biggest challenges facing Millikan in terms of moving forward, specifically in the areas of innovation?
It's the unknown. I mean, I think it's really not knowing what the future brings. And I think it's not just Millikan. I mean, it's any organization right now, to be honest. So clearly the economy and most businesses were cruising right along, right? They're focused on strategy. They're focused on growth. They're focused on, success, because so many companies have had that. And then overnight, almost, just the train stopped. And again, I think this isn't just Millikan. This is, I think, any organization that I've spoken to, whether it's universities that I've listened to, whether it's museums, whether it's manufacturing, it's really understanding what's coming at us, and of course reprioritizing, where to focus your time.
Well, and I think that's too, when it really helps then when you have those people like we were talking about earlier who are wearing that add value hat, because they want to say, okay, what now? What can we do now? So that kind of growth mindset, which is, I think, what you were describing, which should really serve you well as you are entering this company and beginning to kind of, really get a strong sense of who all the players are and so forth. Your willingness to grow and learn and add value will absolutely serve you well. And I know that's kind of the position that you're in right now. And I mean, you're in a pretty key role as you try to get your head around everything. Is that kind of how it feels?
Feels like it, yes. And it's a very scary time. I mean, whether it's personally, whether it's professionally, you just don't know what's coming at you. And I think really supporting individuals and organizations to help them understand, look, yes, that we're all in this together. We all have the same challenges, but again, helping them get over that mental block of that this isn't the worst case. It's not great now, but this isn't the end. And so it's going to be better. We will get through this. It just takes a bit of fortitude and it takes a bit of perseverance to do that.
Yeah. And I'm sure, also, how do you capture innovation at Millikan? Do you know kind of if there are some processes in place that help people kind of share ideas or, soon to be seen, I guess. Yeah. I'm sure they have their own ways.
I'm sure they do. So again, new to the organization. Millikan again is a thought leader. They have a tremendous amount of focus on and attention to technology and development and whatnot. I mean, some very, very intelligent individuals who are experts in their field, worldwide experts in their field. We're consistently pushing the boundaries of, what's next, what else can we do, again, to add value to the world around us. And you see that in some of our sustainability goals. You see that in our ethics goals. I mean, so all of our corporate all of our public corporate goals, I think, support that strong innovation.
Yeah, I just saw that one of Milliken named one of the most ethical companies, I guess, in the world or in the U.S. for sure. So that's a pretty strong accolade.
Multiple years running. So it's been, I think they're the only one who's been on the list ever since that award has been created, which is tremendous. I mean, it's not something that Milliken takes lightly. It's something that we strive for on a consistent basis. And honestly, one of the reasons why I decided to join the organization, because they do have a focus on ethics and, again, sustainability goals, and really empower to influence the world around them and the community, but the world around them.
Biggest surprise coming to Milliken, what would it be?
Is really how private the organization is. So I made the comment in my interview with the team. You know, I went to Converse, and you have this big, beautiful building, and again, you hear Milliken all over the upstate, but you really don't know what they do other than a textile organization. You don't realize, again, that they are a thought leader, and they are a tremendous innovator, and they are a big environmental and community support. And I think that's been the biggest surprise is really how impactful Milliken is to the community and then the world around us. I think, and that's been a very pleasant surprise.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely thought leader from way back. So, what are you looking to? Maybe what is the best advice you've ever received?
The best advice I've ever received, and I it's a cliche to some extent, but a former colleague of mine and a good friend of yours, as a matter of fact, used to tell me all the time when we would get into, again, change discussions and some of that uneasiness was smooth seas don't make great sailors. And so I'm just reminded that it's through those challenging times that you really personally and professionally you grow, and you have those opportunities again to step into things that you just never realized that you could do. And if I, again, look back in my career and think of all the things that I've either stepped forward and raised my hand, or I've been kind of tapped on the shoulder to say, hey, can you take this, and accepted, they were all uncomfortable. And by the time I got through it, I was so much better of a person and professionally than I ever imagined.
Wow, that's awesome. That's great. I love that. So smooth seas don't make great sailors.
Yes.
I love that. So what are you curious about now? What are you learning? What are you interested in learning? Are you, or have you taught yourself something lately? Anything at all?
Anything at all lately. So I'm baking a lot more, so I seem to get better at that. Personally. Now, I think I'm interested in seeing how, again, business and organizations are going to function and operate and coordinate really once we're through with this, right? So how are we going to get through this? I think that's really what I'm most interested in learning and really just studying right now is what will business look like on the backside of COVID? I think it'll be, and what will society look like, right? So, I mean, what will our restaurants look like? What will our shopping look like? What will just every aspect of our life? How will it be different once we get through this? And how will we adapt? So let's talk about adapting. How will we adapt to be ready for something like this in the future? Because clearly this is, I mean, it can happen at any point. So I think that's really that's just my current interest.
Yeah. Top of mind, and it certainly flows right into your whole interest around culture, because culture is fascinating. And you have an innovation center there, don't you?
We do. So we have an entire innovation gallery, which is just an extraordinary thing to walk through. So they have, of course, patents and programs and whatnot that they've created and founded and supported over decades, and it's 2 full walls with tiles of literally starting back to when Roger Milliken moved into the Southeast up until not too long ago with the Polar Tech acquisition. and some of the IP that was brought with that. So it is, again, a tremendous organization. And again, I think focused on innovation and focused on some of that change and impact.
Well, listen, I just want to thank you so much for spending some time with me. Is there any question that I should have asked you, but that I did not?
Oh, you know what? One question that you did ask me, but maybe we didn't talk about on this podcast was what do I want to accomplish going forward?
Please.
There we go. So one thing so from a professional career or a professional status, I think I'm good. So again, I've been very, very lucky in my career to have some phenomenal mentors, and really just had doors open that I never realized, could happen. So that's been great. I think one of the things that I really am trying to focus on now is how do I impact the community? So where can I take some of the passions that I have with developing leaders and really influencing and supporting individuals, especially young women, but young people in general, and really who are looking for what is their next path or what is their path. But anyway, taking some of that passion and finding opportunities in the community to really, again, add value.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. Is there anything in particular you'd like to mention with regard to some of the areas you're interested in?
So currently, I support Jasmine Road, which is a phenomenal organization, and just really some of the things that organization is doing to supporting women and helping them find a path along what do they want to do with their life, or what do they want to do next, or how can they become more self-reliant, et cetera. So I think having those conversations and interactions with that entire group has been tremendous. It's really helped me. I think I've learned as much and been impacted as much by the organization as I hope to impact them. So, but a phenomenal group.
I totally agree. It is a phenomenal group. And I don't know if you've made it to Jasmine Kitchen yet.
I have not.
I'm officially inviting you.
Fantastic. Let's do it.
I'm officially inviting you. I'm telling you, you will be so moved to go there and see what a beautiful job they've done with it. It's so professionally done. The food was phenomenal. And so we have a date. We're going to go there as soon as we can get there. And it's just, knowing your passion for their work when you go there, it's so moving. It's just such a beautiful culmination of all the time and the effort that's gone into that organization. We're so proud to have them in the upstate, and I'm delighted that you're involved, because I know that probably means at some point Milliken will be involved. That would be a wonderful thing for them, but it's always good for the word to be out there, of what they're accomplishing there, which affects our whole community.
And I think the social enterprise aspect of and that's the structure of that organization. I'm hoping that will catch on throughout Greenville and Spartanburg in the upstate, because I think that really does provide opportunities for people who may have felt like they didn't have opportunities in the past. So you see it happening across the country, but I think that's a phenomenal, just a phenomenal structure, and really, again, a great thing to catch on around us.
Yeah, I think it is as well. I know that they have several outlets for social entrepreneurship there. So it'll be fun to see what else they do. All right, we're going to set a date, and we're going to have the next part of our interview in that restaurant.
That's perfect.
And I so appreciate your time, Heather. I'm delighted that you're at Milliken. They're so fortunate to have you, and you're going to have a blast there. I just know that you're going to do some really cool things and really great adding value, but I just appreciate your time, and I will look forward to soon when we connect and we have lunch at Jasmine Kitchen.
That's perfect. Thanks, Gail.
Okay. Thank you so much. Take good care.
Talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye.